Hello, 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 and welcome to the Drag Race RHAPup here on Reality TV RHAPups. I'm your host, Liana Boraas, and today we are talking about episode 14 of RuPaul's Drag Race season 16. The gang is back together for the top four to a shocking top three. I'm so excited to talk about it with these two wonderful individuals. First, he held down the fort last week with the guest Matt Lagori. It is Aman Adwin. Aman, how are you?
Hey, I'm back. I survived. But yeah, no, it was super fun with Matt last week. A shout out to Matt Lagori once again for filling in and helping us keep this afloat. But yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this week's episode. We are officially down to the wire. A little surprised about the next progression of the season, but we'll talk about it. But yeah, just happy to be back, and I'm glad that my two co-hosts are back as well.
Yes, and rounding out our little family here, it's Beth Dixon. Beth, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm rounding out the top three.
That's right. Look at us, top three.
Look at us, top three. Top three. No, I'm doing super well. Many thanks again to Matt last week. And it's so great to be back with the two of you to talk about what was feeling like a penultimate episode, but then we no, it's not going to be a penultimate episode. So I'm very interested to see what happens moving forward, but excited to break it all down with the two of you.
Yeah.
Before we continue, Beth, you might have to switch over your audio to a different
okay.
Input.
Is it brushing this?
Yeah, it's like brushing your hair.
Thank you. I'm just going to hold it like this.
Oh, okay. Look at us on the fly. Professionals.
Yes, I am traveling. And I forgot to get headphones for my computer, and then we couldn't find the charger for my computer. It's been a whole process. So thank you all for bearing with me. Is this better if I'm holding it?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's better, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm like, where do we even begin? Okay, so we had our top four. So we have our top four. Morphine obviously eliminated last week. And, in Drag Race trends have been that we usually have a top four in the finale. It's been a long time since we've seen a top three. So what was very interesting was throughout this episode, there were indications of, oh, I hope it's a non-elimination. Like, I hope we all get to make it to the top four. Saphira talks about it would be a shame to lose anybody. I want everybody to stay. Then we get the, after the lip sync, the shady editors putting in this beautiful pause. I don't know if it's them or Ru or who did this, but there was a little bit of a gag for a double save at the end of this episode, which did not happen. Q is eliminated, and we do have a top three of Nymphia, Saphira, and Plain Jane. So, Beth, what's your gut reaction to this?
I mean, I am so excited to have a top three. I've been pretty vocal about I think the lip sync for your life at the end is fun. It is a great celebration of what drag is all about with lip syncing and everything. But the big but there, I've appreciated a top three in the past. I don't like this fake out, oh no, will they, won't they kind of thing. And I do think that there's something special when you have a top three. I think it makes it more competitive at the end. We even look at last year when there was a really fierce top four. Imagine it just adds more drama when you cut somebody who you all agree. I think Q could have easily been in the final three. But there's a gagginess, there's a drama to the fact that somebody who all season long wanted it so bad and could back it up, and then all of a sudden at the very end gets cut. That is gaggy, and I'm here for it.
Aman, what about you? Any reaction to this being an official top three?
I mean, I've always been more of a fan of the top three. I think it also sort of harkens back to one of the first competition reality TV shows that I ever loved, which was America's Next Top Model, and was always a top three in their finale. So when they stopped doing it for Drag Race, I was always like, that's weird. And then you get used to it because it is what it is. But I was kind of glad to see this sort of return to form. It feels very it just feels right in my mind. And I just had an inkling that it was going to happen as soon as RuPaul refers to this episode as the semifinals, And then there's a confessional from Saphira also acknowledging that RuPaul
Mhm.
usually does not refer to it as semifinals. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that means somebody is not making the final, because
Mhm.
you can't have a semifinal if everyone makes it to the final. So I was I was pleased to see it happen. I felt bad for Q only because when you go so many times with having a top 4, and then the one season that you make it to the top 4, you get cut at the top 3. It's like, well, damn, bitch. Like, was I that bad? Like,
Did
was it
you?
my fault?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Did you hate me that much that you reinstituted the top 3, like, just to get rid of me?
like, damn. So
Ugh.
yeah, I felt bad for her, but I kind of at the same time kind of like, well, I feel like if he gave y'all a hint saying this is the semifinal episode, then well, hey, got
And
your
also
cues,
the fact
or
that
got
we
your cues.
didn't have like a Lollapalooza like lip sync like we've had the past couple of episodes. Like
Mhm.
that's going to be interesting when we look. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but like looking to saying like, okay, so we've had this structure that we've been looking forward to, and now that didn't happen. So what's the gag here? Either somebody has to go home, um, or there's gonna be something weird with it. Like maybe we both saved this time, but then there's another challenge or something,
Mhm.
and then we go to I don't know. I don't trust anything when it comes to Drag Race, and I kind of feel like there have been fans who have been asking for the top 3 for like a long time, and it feels very akin to the Survivor go back to a top 2 from the top 3. So it's interesting to see a show actually return to the format, and then I don't know, maybe like Survivor
Mhm.
will get some cues. I don't know.
Mhm.
It just feels, I don't know, it just something about a top 3 just feels better in my brain. It feels less crowded, and you give more credence to each of the queens. I don't know, it just feels better to me. There I saw a lot of people on Twitter on Friday night just sort of, well, not necessarily complaining, but very like much gagged or shocked or questioning the fact that there was no remix, there was no talking to that younger self, all of that stuff. Which I love the talking to the younger self. I think that that's a great scene every single season. The remix, I I didn't miss it. Like I wasn't like
Mm.
We already
gagged that
did
there
that this
wasn't a remix.
season.
Yeah, like I was like that's okay. Like we get so much RuPaul music anyway. Like I don't necessarily need to see the queens do their own verse to a RuPaul song. Where you're gonna get it every season anyway. So, and it's not to say that that's still not something that can happen during the finale, right? So, I think that we'll probably still see a lot of the talking to the younger self thing probably during
Mhm.
finale. I don't know about a remix. Maybe they'll return to form and do like what they used to do through like season 6 through like 8, where they did the top 3 would have their own little song to sing. So we'll see. We'll see. But
Mhm.
yeah, I was fine with this. Like I wasn't like, no remix? No, really? I was like, okay, fine.
If anything, I was like, what a refreshing challenge for the end, because it's really focused on each of them individually as both drag artists and like
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
And I thought this was more refreshing than a lot of the, who's going to be the final queens episodes that we've had.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think also, like, okay, let's see how this goes now, right? We've been saying, oh, final 3. Let's see if we actually do miss the music. Let's see if we like. Let's play out the season and see how it goes, because we've had the sort of this rote format now for a while with some small changes. But I really want to see now. Okay, we actually have a top 3, which I agree with them on. Like, there's a reason the podiums have 3 spots. There's a reason why the Olympics it's gold, silver, bronze, baby. Okay. Like no one's in
Mhm.
fourth place. Poor fourth place person. Anyway, whatever. So I'm here for it. Like, let's try it out. Let's see how it goes. Now, if we're thinking about the format for the rest of the season, we have 2 more episodes left. I believe the finale is on April 19th. Next week
Mhm.
is going to be what was she call it a Lollapalooza? Yeah, lip
Yeah.
sync
Mhm.
Lollapalooza. But this is all the eliminated queens that are going to come back to compete for a prize. So we're going to have the 11 eliminated queens come back. And then I assume that the finale will be just a regular finale. I would imagine they're still going to have to lip sync, but it'll be like what we've seen in more recent seasons where here's your song, put together
Hmm.
a performance
Mhm.
for that song. Because
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
we can't have, and then maybe the top 2 lip sync against each other or something like that.
Hmm.
That's
Mhm.
what I would imagine. So That's it. That's kind of the format that we're looking at for the rest of the season. So really only one more, the actual finale in terms of these final 3 queens, because then we're taking a step back for the eliminated queens, which by the way, very excited for. Mirage,
So
so
does that
excited.
mean no reunion?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yes.
Is next week the reunion, but it's done within the context of the workroom without like sit down and address the drama with RuPaul?
I don't know.
Which
I was
could be
wondering, or it's folded
interesting.
into the finale is maybe
Mm.
another option. I mean, we see
Right.
like season 5, for example, or where you season 6, where you like check in with the queens or something like that. It could be on that level, but I don't
Mhm.
know. Or we just don't get a formal reunion, which in my opinion would be the one thing that would be missing, because I want a reunion.
I
I
love
feel like I
reunions.
wouldn't
Same.
mind if it was folded into both. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
in the sense like what Beth just mentioned, where we get to see everybody back in the workroom as as they're waiting to lip sync or whatever, and without RuPaul sort of like proctoring or moderating the discussion,
Mhm.
that could lead to a little bit more messy conversations, which I'm here for. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
For
So
sure.
I wouldn't be
Mhm.
mad seeing, because the 3 queens that are in the top, right? They're going to be sitting there safe just watching the show. So I imagine Plain Jane is probably going to say something shady to somebody, which I could imagine sparking like a whole conversation
It's going to be
in the
Amanda.
background of the lip syncs. And exactly.
That's why I want a reunion.
And so I wouldn't mind if we get the messy reunion during the lip sync, and then during the finale we get like, RuPaul sort of asking queens how they feel about other queens as well. Like I wouldn't mind that. Like I would miss the reunion less if it was like still sort of like injected into both episodes in a sense.
Mhm.
I loved when RuPaul would highlight all the queens kind of like in their elimination order and put them like at a group of 4, right? Like the first 4 eliminated
Mhm.
queens come out and then like
Mhm.
Mhm.
you have like a minute and a half with each of them, and then typically like an audience question from a previous queen or something like that at this live spot. I loved that because we got to see like the drag race community come together, the
Exactly. Yeah.
fans,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. And we lost that with going to Final Four because it has to just be about the final queens. And I
Mhm.
agree with you, Aman. I think that it would be so amazing to have this organic, the queens are together and like, let's see how they either spark more drama or put it to bed or whatever the case might be.
Mhm.
And then also have a more structured kind of finale. But
Mhm.
I'm thinking they're going to lean heavily on the Lollapalooza and not so much on the finale.
Mhm. Yeah.
I can do that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think so too. But we'll have to wait and see. Let's get into this week's episode. Enough pontificating about the future. Let's
Great
talk
word.
about I know. Oh my god.
She's
Come on, English
educated.
language. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the Maxi Challenge. So we already promoted Rue's book once. Time to promote it again. So this week, the queens were tasked with creating their own. I guess it's complicated. So they create their own memoir, which essentially is a branding challenge, which comprised of a photo shoot for the cover. They had to write their own stories, which we didn't get to read. They were only
Yeah.
read by Matt Rogers, who did the interview then with the Queen. So it's about them sort of going on this press tour almost of like selling their book. And then of course we had the final runway look. So what I've done is I've pulled up both the book cover as well as the finale look. And similar to the judges, we'll sort of talk about each element of the challenge in totality for each of the queens. So we'll be covering the interview, we'll be covering the photo shoot, we'll cover the book stories, the images of the cover, as well as, of course, the final runway. So
Mhm.
the first book, we're going to talk about Plain Jane. So her title is Plane Crash, How I Walked Away from Disaster. Aman, what was your overall impression of Plain Jane this week?
I mean, I liked the concept of the title and everything. I thought, yeah, it's perfect. It fits in with her name. I didn't necessarily like during the photo shoot, I didn't necessarily realize um how much of a problem the hair was going to be. during the photo shoot, but I guess I sort of understood where the judges were coming from. Like when you're, it's the top 4, right? So you have to start nitpicking, especially when you're going to bring it down to a top 3. So I definitely understood that maybe that wasn't the best hair choice. And as far as her interview is concerned, I don't know. It was sort of like hard to sort of gauge that and be fair to Plain, because when I was watching it at the bar, a lot of some of the friends that I was watching with were like, this feels like they're just putting her in the bottom just to do it, because you have what's his name, Matt Rogers, asking specific questions about being shady to the queens. She answers them, and then you say, well, you didn't have to answer that. It's like, well, what else was you're conducting the interview, so what else is she supposed to answer? But then I also was like, okay, well, if in the book that they wrote, or excerpts or short stories, whatever it is that they wrote for the book, if what she talked about mainly was being a bitch and not necessarily surviving disaster, then I can see why he would ask those questions if that's what the source material is all about. So I'm like interested to see I wish that we did get to like read or have some kind of inference as to like what was in the book, so that we could better gauge, are the questions that Matt is asking appropriate, or are they a little bit, production heavy rigomoris bullshit. So I don't know. I was of two minds about it. I do think that ultimately the people that ended up winning or being in the top 2 had a bit more of a stronger through line, but I'm not necessarily like Plain failed this challenge either. So
I think the thing that both Plain and Q failed to do a lot in the interview, which Nymphia and Saphira killed, was always bringing everything back to the book and the memoir. Because RuPaul makes a very solid point and pointedly says, don't forget to sell your book. Don't forget to sell your memoir when you're talking with Matt. And I think that if Plain were to say, yeah, the disasters that we're walking, past, or all these girls, they were all the disasters, how I walked away from them to get the crown or whatever, then I could say, okay, that's the connection. And I totally agree with you, Aman, that like you can only really respond to the questions that you're given. But I also disagree in that if you're the one getting interviewed, you are actually the one with the power. You could be like, yeah, I'm a bitch, but you know what? I want to bring it back to my book here because blah, 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 right? So I felt like she was very muted when she was getting interviewed, which is so kind of unlike her. And it's very interesting because I don't know if you guys watched The Bald and the Beautiful or listened to it, the Trixie and Katya podcast, but she was the guest with Katya this week instead of Trixie being there. And as much as fun as it was to watch Plain and Katya talking, especially given all the like drama where everybody thought that she was coming for Katya in the beginning, and like Katya like has eaten it up and whatever. She was actually pretty subdued there too. And so I do think that there's something to be said, and we got shades of this, of her being, and she admits it in this episode, that she's just not as comfortable in her own de-drag self as she is when she's in drag. Like you can't tell her anything. She is pussy. She is everything in drag. But when she's out of drag, it's like that confidence kind of goes away a little bit, and the edge, the bite, the everything that she has is subdued. That she doesn't want to take space the way that she does when she's in drag. And if that had been the point of her interview, I think she would have won the challenge. But she didn't have the control in the interview. I felt like you're running away from a plane crash and all you have is just some tears. I mean, I would have made it so that she looked like she had bruises and cuts and such, and that she walked away and she still looks fierce or whatever. Then the wig makes sense. My hair is a mess because I walked away from a plane crash. Tease it up in a weird frizzy way or whatever. But when it comes to her like finale look, I thought that this was a beautiful way of interpret. Can we also take a moment? Of course, the one time they do a fan challenge, like runway, I don't have a fan. And I feel very, very personally attacked by MTV in World of Wonder right now. Thank you. I'm miming it, guys. I'm miming it.
We got you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Beth, I hear what you're saying because my initial impression was the same as Aman's, which was like I feel like I'm being told she's doing poorly, and I'm feeling like the things I'm being shown are indicating to me that she's doing poorly. But is she actually doing bad? And I would say that initially it started with her story about how being a bitch can actually be an act of kindness. That I felt like matched the theme of the book, right? Plane crash.
Mhm.
How I was a disaster, right? And I walked away better for it. Then the second half of the interview, I did get away from her, I think, a little bit, where she sort of lost the plot in terms of having to go back to the book. And that's something that you see Saphira do so well. And we'll talk about her at the end. She even plugs her book again. She's like, Slowfoot, right? Like she's bringing it up
Mhm.
over and over and over again. And I think Plane kind of lost that a little bit. But I think it's both. I do think they were also a little bit extra shady. Like literally, I understand that her hair was not that big. This is the shadiest picture that they used for the
Yeah.
cover
Oh,
shot.
for
Like
sure.
when I was watching the actual footage, like it did look when she first flipped it over, it had much more volume than that. Like they could have used one of those early shots,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of like, okay, this feels like a little extra shady. Like you picked this bad picture, like just on
Yeah.
purpose.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I
It was giving
noticed.
so much. It was triggering for me because that would happen so much in America's Next Top Model. It was like, well, now
Yes.
I know because the camera was behind the photo person, and I saw some of those frames, and you chose this frame. Come on now,
Yes.
you wanted to send her home.
Oh,
So
1000%.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I mean, the runway look, gorgeous. Absolutely, like speaks for itself. As soon when she walked
Mhm.
around the corner, I like had an audible reaction. Like, oh, it
Mhm.
was just goddess Aphrodite. I love everything about this. I think it's absolutely stunning. It looks so good on her. So I can't. I mean, so good. Oh,
She
Beautiful,
looks gorgeous for
beautiful.
sure.
yeah.
Definitely was giving me all the Greek fantasy there. I
Mm-hmm.
loved it.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing too is that they very much were playing up this through line that all of a sudden we find out that Q and Plane are actually really good friends now, and like that really got brought up. So that so I literally throughout the entire episode was like, oh, so they're in the bottom two.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Like
Mhm.
all of a sudden they're like, Q and I love just like shading each other, and I'm like, that has not come across as a friendly manner until this
No, it
episode.
hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, but especially like the beginning of the episode, right? Like right after the elimination, Q's throwing shade about like, oh, it's a bodysuit. Oh, they critiqued everybody else's bodysuit until they got to you, and then Jane throws back at Q about the idea of this is just a concept, and then Q's like, well, you could never do a concept. I'm like, okay, this is not like are they friends? Are you guys sure about that? This is
Mhm.
very shady.
Y'all, are y'all screwed? What's going on here?
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Slewfoot, Saphira Crystal, embracing all of me. She, to me, easily had the best interview. I felt like. I mean, I think there's an argument for Nymphia, but maybe it's just my own bias towards Saphira that, and Matt Rogers said this, you just feel so comfortable with her. Like it just feels so natural. She just brings you in. She has such a presence about her that you kind of can't help but feel just like, okay, yes, you are mother. I am comforted. Like I am safe. That being said,
Yeah.
I would say that the cover of the book is fine. It's fine. But I almost wanted to more embrace the slew foot of it all. I don't know. Like I just
Yeah.
felt like it was maybe missing a little bit of something.
Yeah, it didn't if it did feel a little disjointed visually. Like I feel like I would have I mean the picture is great, the pose is iconic. It definitely harkens back to Lil Kim. It's giving,
Mhm.
but where's the slew? Okay, like I would much rather her not been I would much rather her been standing up with her legs slewed out. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
So I definitely feel that. I do feel like this challenge is definitely for someone like Saphira because she's so manicured, and this
Yeah.
challenge is all about like image and putting the best slew foot forward, and just curating yourself. And she's such a curated person. She auditioned 11 times for this show, 11 times, and
Yeah.
she's finally made it on. So it's like an inspirational story within itself, and I feel like she has taken so much time to edit herself and to figure it out, like, what is the best way that I can be the best candidate for Drag Race, which sometimes can be very, very like, okay, run of the mill, like you want it too much. Like, you can either be the Jan or you can be like a Saphira, where it's like you're trying hard because you want to be here, but you've also done it so long that you're like, bitch, I got this now. You know what I mean? It's like it's a confidence. It's just that veneer of just being comfortable with who you are after all of this time of being told no. So I thought that everything that she had was like down pat. She had the whole theme. She had all the concepts that she wanted to put into the stories that she told. It all related back to the book. It was all the interview was warm. It was kind. It made you walk away feeling a little inspired. It was good. The only downside that I have to it is sort of what I mentioned before, and that sometimes it feels just a tad too rehearsed, a tad too perfect, a tad too, so I'm just, that is the only drawback to Saphira that I have. It's like, and I feel like I've been saying this throughout the past couple of episodes, like sometimes she just comes off as just like, it's the Bianca Del Rio factor. Like, bitch, she's looking at her competition like, okay. So, which is iconic as well. So it's just, it's sometimes you want a little bit more edge from her. At least I do, but she rocked the challenge. So it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, oh, you sold your book too well. Well, bitch, you told me to. So,
And see, I agree to a certain extent, but I disagree. I think the reason I agree 1,000% about the incredibly manicured confidence persona, drag aesthetic. I mean, she's been around the block. She knows her proportions. She knows her paint. She knows the face that she's giving. She knows the pose. She knows everything, right? She knows how to interact with other drag queens. She knows how to sell something. She has the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience. She also doesn't have the egotism that we sometimes see, where like, there's nobody like me, blah, 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 blah. Like, she does not have that in a braggadocious way, which is what makes us all more endeared to her, because we sit back and we're like, wow, this person who isn't quietly confident is loud about her confidence, but in a way that's not shoving it down your throat, or, like I said, being braggadocious. And I think that is just something that's just like really warm.
yeah.
I see cracks, especially in her runways and her drag aesthetic, where sometimes I'm like, this was almost there, whether it's the breastplate or something just being a little too big or not fitting her correctly. The material that she chooses sometimes is like, oh, that's an interesting one that you went for, right? And it's those little bits of vulnerability that show this is a human who is still continuing to evolve, even despite all of this experience, this wisdom, this whatever. That's also what makes us very endeared to her, I think, is somebody that we can all look at and go, she's everything but perfection. And that is beautiful, because that's what we all try to strive for, right? I think that that's what she's got going on here. And I think the issue for me of why Nymphia takes the crown over her, when it comes to the interview, is because we've already seen her vulnerability throughout the competition a few times. And Nymphia's was so soul like spilling that like I was just so enthralled with like I felt things with Nymphia's. And here, like you said, Liana, I felt very comfortable with Saphira. I thought she killed it. I'd listen to her all day, but it didn't make me feel something the way that Nymphia did. And I think that's ultimately what Nymphia needed to A, get into the final three, and B, we needed that moment from her, in the way that we had already with Plain Jane and with Saphira. And Q has been nothing but vulnerable the entire time, almost to the point where she's like, it doesn't seem like confidence. It seems either like entitlement or like she's so desperate for validation. And we don't get that for these other three as much, right? So I think that's the only reason why Nymphia beats out Saphira for me. But I'm very loudly saying Saphira for the crown. I'm just gonna put it out there.
I mean, I think Nymphia won the week. Like, to be
sure.
clear, I think Nymphia won the week, especially combined with oh my God, the photo shoot. Ugh, we'll get to it. But I just, yeah, I think there's just something like, I just want to hang out with Saphira. Like, I just want to talk about it. But I do see your point, Beth. Like, even the runway this week also kind of feels like, okay, like, I like it, but there's just something that I don't like immediately. I don't know, like maybe something with the proportions or something that just sort
Yes.
of like feels just
I-
a teeny tiny bit off. Although she does have a new breastplate.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I don't
Maybe
know what
Maya's?
PA ordered that on Amazon or whatever, but thank God. I'm sure that's not where they got it. But-
Yeah, I don't. I like it, but like, yeah, something feels off about it. Like, I don't know,
Right.
maybe the fans are not in the right place. Maybe the fans should be a little higher up, maybe.
Right.
I don't know, but I mean, it was definitely a bit of I didn't see the reveal coming, that's for sure. Like,
True.
I was like, okay, there's going to be a reveal here because where's the fan? So I knew that something was happening. I just didn't see it happening in that way.
It was
And
so
then when it
cool.
happened, I was like, am I gagging or am I confused? I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's
The way that she did that reveal made me feel very much like, okay, if I were to do a fan reveal look, how would I do it? Because I'm sitting here like, this is my episode. You've got Nymphia Wind talking about breaking wind, having the whole wind thing, and I was like, this is me. We've got Augusta Wind. We're doing the whole thing, and then fans is the runway. I was like, are we kidding? So I was like, what if I did like almost like a dinosaur aesthetic, and it's like you do something and like all of a sudden like you have like the little stegosaurus like down the back or whatever. Like I went a little crazy thinking about this, but she's like inspired that to me where I was like, oh, there's so many little things that you could do that would be so cool. And I'm gonna put it out there. I don't like the hair, but I love the effort.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly.
Like, but that's the kind of thing where I think like sometimes she's got a concept and it's just not executed the way
Yeah.
maybe it could be, or
Mhm.
other times she's got the aesthetic, but it's just not fitting or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
There's always something that's just missing. And I think we're at a time in Drag Race where just missing sometimes is enough to not get you the crown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's talk about Q. Alphabet soup, savor every bite. Beth, you had a little bit of a reaction. I want to know your thoughts.
I mean, girl, what? This had nothing to do with her. I am so happy the judges read her down for like the outfit, because I was like, what was this? The fact that I'm in a soup. Like, I also think this was probably a moment where they were shady too, like with like which picture they chose. But also, how would you choose a photo when that's the concept? It has nothing to do. Why wasn't this something about being like excusic, like, or something like, and you're like trying to put together like my aesthetic or like being, I don't know. I'm just coming up with other shit, but like Q stands for queen. I don't know. Come up with some kind of shit that actually fits with what you're good at, which is construction and design and all the other stuff. This has nothing. This tells me nothing about you. And then this runway, I loved when the fan could stay up and actually, she's like, the way it frames my hair. I'm like, bitch, it fell down. It is not framing anything. This is like a backward shoulder pad at this moment. It's weird. And then the hair, what is so no, this was a hot mess and she deserved to go. I'm sorry.
Again, I wonder just how much power they had in the designing of the book cover. Is it like the design challenge for the rooms where we see them come up with a concept and then they're probably in the room while the people that are actually building it are there to just sort of like, see their vision executed, and they're
Mhm.
they're like the art director, right? Is it the same way for the book cover? Because we don't get any footage of them talking about what the design is going to look like. So to me, I'm like, I'm only left with the assumption that production did this.
Also, why are there other letters in the soup besides Q? Like, why does the spoon have P? Q Q. Like, that is so stupid. Why is
I
the
think they're
background
all
white?
cute. I think they're all cues. I think the left one is just like a weird
Oh.
angle, so it looks like a
Okay,
P.
you're right. It
But
is.
like, okay, so I had the same issue, right? So I was like, did she decide to be standing in the soup? Like,
And why did
who?
she choose that outfit for it?
Yes, exactly. Why'd she choose that outfit? Did she get to pick the colors? Like, why does it look like a child's book? Okay, so if you were to do letters in the back, right, for the alphabet soup, choose charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent, but like in a different order. You know what I mean? Like something that's like,
Thank
okay,
you.
like a little bit of a nod or something like that. It just, the whole thing just felt like a bit of a mess. And like, I love the fact that her story that she talks about in the interview is like, oh, growing up low income, like, that my mother had to like work to provide. I'm like, okay, how does that tie back to the alphabet soup? Is that is this like a food thing?
Like,
Like
is
we
this
didn't
I
all
have
guess
you
it's
alphabet
ate
like
soup?
growing up? Like,
I guess it's
like, there's
like
something to tie into that.
I can understand like she didn't have a lot of money growing up. Her mother had to make a lot of sacrifices. They had to eat at the grandmother sometime. That sometimes the utilities were shut off. So now that she is an adult, she is, because it's alphabet soup, savor every bite, right? So like I could see that being like, okay, now that you're an adult and you're able to really fully realize and understand what it is that your mother went through, you are living your life to the fullest and you just want to, I could kind of see that, but it wasn't strong enough. It didn't come through. It just felt
Mhm.
like, and like again, like all of the stories that all these queens told are wonderful stories of like, saving themselves and getting older and getting better and living life and loving themselves deeply. So no one's story is invalid, but if the challenge is a marketing of a story, girl.
Well, this is the thing. Like, All Stars 3 had the soup like challenge, and she wouldn't have even won that with this. This is like my point, is like that there was no marketing concept behind it. And there was a part of me that was like, savor what instead of soak what? Girl, soak what up? Like, savor what up
Mhm.
here? Because there's no through line. And I really
Mhm.
wish that she, like, if you're gonna, I, I also just generally felt like, I'm switching gears, I guess, a little bit, but I generally felt like in the interview, she just was so uncomfortable. Like, that's the vibe I got, was that she had,
Mhm.
like, she was very timid and like scared. And like, you could tell, like, Matt had to really change his energy with her in a way that wasn't fun. It was like, okay, no, I'm gonna hold your hand through this a little
Mm.
bit. And once she started talking about her mother and how thankful she is for her, and like, single mother of 4 kids and all that kind of stuff, like, that is such a beautiful story and such a wonderful homage to your mother. And it makes me wonder, like, where could we have, like you're saying, like, where could we have, like, was alphabet soup the thing that you ate every single day because that's what your mother was able to give you guys? Like, that's great. What a wonderful way to put that
Yeah.
into there. But there
Yes.
was, and I don't know, like, or did your mother first teach you how to make clothing? In which case, like, great, let's tie that into something that isn't alphabet soup then, and like go back. She just had like 3 separate things that I just felt like made, like, her outfit, alphabet soup, and then like this wonderful, beautiful story about her mother. And I'm like, they don't all mix, and you didn't do a good job in the interview or in the presentation of making sure
Yeah.
that there was cohesion there.
She
Mhm.
definitely should have gone because I mean, the queens have an idea of like what archetype they're fitting, right? And she clearly knew that she was going to be the seamstress of the season. I think you're totally right. I think she should have gone with, especially like if you wanted to showcase something that you made, which you made everything during the photo shoot, then you make your book, you title your book something about like stitching your way through life, or like,
Love that.
you know, reaping what you sow, something like that. Some
Or like,
silly but heartfelt pun about seamstressing. You know what I mean?
I would have made it like bespoke, but like spelled it with a Q at the
Mm.
end or something like that. And then
Mhm,
you're like, okay,
mhm.
like made to tailor or something like that. I don't know.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, it just felt like I mean, you guys have said it all, that it just didn't feel cohesive, right? Like nothing was really cohesive. I don't hate her runway look as
I
much
don't
as
hate it,
No.
but
okay, I don't dislike it as maybe as much. I think it's cute. I think it's just here's the other issue that I have with not issue, but this is the other thing I've noticed about Q is like she set the bar so high for herself when it came to runway looks. So then it just felt like if you're not continuously matching that, and they don't have the choice of the order, right? So they
right.
can't plan that. But it just felt like compared to maybe some of the other things that we've seen from her, it was just like, okay, yeah, this is cute and like well constructed,
Yeah.
very gorgeous. But like when you come out covered in flowers as like a weird creature, you know what I mean? Just like by comparison, it's just not as avant-garde or as pushing the envelope as we've seen from her in the past. So that's just another unfortunate thing again with the order of the way the runways came out.
I would also say that her, like again, I actually think that this is a really cool outfit.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that there were aspects about it,
Right.
like she was like, "Oh, it's like it's not framing anymore." Those kind of things.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if those are actually the same material that fans are made out of, which
Mm.
are hard to work with. So I want to give her a lot of credit and points here. I always want to give Q credit and points for the fact that she not only designed but made everything that she brought to Drag Race. And I want to give her points for always being ingenuitive with her hair as well. We're seeing things we have never seen before, and I think that's really great. I just felt like this was a little too weird. I don't know.
Well, because I feel like the hair piece, like these pieces on the side, are supposed to mimic the fan, like the
Mm-hmm.
do 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 do. So like I love that. But again, like I'm just comparing against her previous looks, so it's
Yeah.
just like it's yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I'm getting more ruffle than fan from the look, but
Mm,
whatever.
But if the fan is standing up in the back, then you see it. I'm just saying.
yeah.
She matched
Okay.
the soup though.
Yeah, when
That's the
TS
color of the
Michelle
soup.
wore that,
Just
Yeah.
saying.
I was like, yeah.
Oh man, if only she lended this to Saphira last week.
Do you think she was like, "Hey, do you think we could?" She's like, "No, girl.
Nope.
I'm gonna hold on to this just in case we have to do the fan up." And then the next week,
Right.
she's like, "See, this is why I didn't do it."
Oh my gosh, how awkward would that have been if she had lent it and then had to wear it the next week? Ugh.
Oh my god.
Okay. Let's talk about our final contestant, Nymphia. So, Nymphia had easily my favorite title, Breaking Wind, The Art of Letting Go. Loved that. Her photo shoot, oh my God. Speaking of America's Next Top Model, her in the photo shoot and actually the underwater mini challenge we'll talk about later, but like it just felt like so high fashion. The way that her and Rue were interacting too, oh my God. It was like, this is a model who was hired and Rue is the director. Like, this is not a novice. This is someone who knows what they're doing. And she talks about how heavy the boots are, but she's pushing through it to get gorgeous shots. It felt like every shot could have been used. I mean, I'm happy with
Every
the one
damn
they
one.
chose, but there were so many to pick from.
It was so I want those boots so
Ugh.
bad. Oh my god. I want that jacket, like everything, like just the whole image was just to die for. And you're so
Mhm.
right. Like she just knew how to contort her body and give those angles and those dimensions and levels. And it felt like out of anybody, Rue was like the most excited to like he couldn't like stop touching her. He couldn't like stop being like, oh no, now do this. Okay, now twist it this way. Like with everyone else, like he was, he was obviously directing them as well. But I felt like with Nymphia, he was like the most like because the outfit was so dynamic. There was just so much you could do with it. Like I just I no there was no way to fail with that outfit. The only way to fail with that outfit is to just like not wear the outfit. So I just felt like it was just so great. And when we get to the interview, I agree with what we said earlier. I really feel like Nymphia, and especially with like her storyline of, always sort of like hamming up this, oh, I don't know what I'm doing character, and then like killing it on the runway. It was so nice to finally see her be like, look, girl, I'm not the biggest fan of myself. And it took me a long time to sort of like be able to just look in the mirror and be like, okay, I can see the beauty that I possess. Like that specific line about what did she say? She said, I was running away from my reflection or something like that. I was like, oh, because like I feel like we've all been through that where we just do not feel like we are going to be capable of attracting anybody, and you just feel like, okay, well, I guess I'm just destined to be alone. I guess everyone else is like gets the joke and I don't. Like I've been there, so like that really, really did touch me. And so from that alone, I was like, give it to the girl. Give it to the girl. But then the cherry on top was like what I mentioned before in that photo shoot. It was so good. So I just think that collectively she had the most to lose in this challenge. So for her to do so well, you shouldn't give her the extra credit, but you want to give her the extra credit because it was just so impactful. So I thought that this was the perfect challenge for her to win, and she did such a great job. And I mean, I've been wanting Nympia to win for the longest time, but like over the past few weeks, I've been like, okay, well, I gotta, Nympia, love you, sis, but like I gotta support my Philly sister, okay?
Yeah.
But after Friday night, I was like,
back in, baby.
New York's back in it.
Yeah.
I just got thinking
if
about
there's
it.
anybody to lose to.
It's so funny because I just realized that we have Boston, New York, and Philly as the three cities of like
Come
the
on,
three
East Coast.
finalists. Come on, East Coast. But also,
Through
those are
LA.
all three of the cities that Saphira has lived in for her career.
Oh.
Yeah, true, yeah.
Which is great. I think that Nymphia wins for setting herself up to just absolutely be able to do anything. And it's the art of letting go. She's letting go in the interview. She's letting go while she's posing. She's opening herself up to vulnerability, which is a letting go. Like there's so many aspects of this that if she hadn't named it Breaking Wind, which is obviously the funny part, but then like the art of letting go, also funny with Breaking Wind, but it's also has that double meaning there of saying like there are things I've had to let go in order to grow. There are things that sometimes we are not comfortable letting go, but we end up having to do so, whether they're relationships or memories of a certain time or whatever the case might be. We have to let go of those things so that we can move forward. And the fact that her interview is sitting back and saying, I've had to let go of things that gave me comfort because they were holding me back. I've had to let go of thinking that I wasn't enough because I didn't fit the world's beauty standard that comes out of the West, which I think is a really important thing for especially those of us in America to really, really listen and hear. Is like if we have such an impact, our culture does, on the world, and having somebody grow up in Taiwan and looking in it arguably in a place that is a little bit more racially homogenous and still feeling like they don't fit the beauty standard, that is something that we really should be reflecting on. That really spoke
It's
to
wild.
me
Mm-hmm.
in a
very
way that
wild.
I'd never would have considered it in a sense. And I just think that there were so many aspects of this that were just so beautiful and fierce and raw and but also rich in confidence, because you got to be confident to be able to admit this, right? On national, international television, to celebrities, to RuPaul, to whomever. And we have often seen, and she said it in this episode, the moment that she hits the stage, she's like, well, I have to turn on. What are you turning on? You're actually turning on letting go and just being in the moment. And if there's one thing Nymphia does better than I think most of the other people in this cast, it's letting go when the stage is on. Okay, I'm good to go. It's that buildup. So I think that she just did so incredibly well, and I think a lot of it comes back to how she framed it for this challenge.
I mean, that's where, again, this is a branding challenge at the end of the day. And I think that's what her and Saphira did really well, which was we're pulling it back to the main message, right? Saphira's main message was, look, we're all a little slewfoot, and Nymphia's message is it is about letting go, right? And it is about accepting these things about yourself and being willing to be vulnerable. And so I think they both, even though the themes were very big and very broad, it still matched the stories that they were telling. It matched the title. It matched, the whole narrative that they were crafting. And so I think that, in Untucked, Plain Jane's like, well, it's a very clear like top 2 and bottom 2, right? And I think that there's a reason for that. And that to me is sort of the key takeaway that differentiated Nymphia and Sapphira from Q and Plain. And Q's also fucking alphabet soup nonsense. Whatever. Anyway, we talked about that.
Every
Okay.
time it
Yeah,
gets
I
brought
just,
up, I get re-triggered.
I know.
it's
But like,
I-
honestly, at first I was like, "Oh, alphabet soup, like that's cute." And then I saw the actual cover, and I was like, "They did her so dirty. It's
they
so bad."
they said it's time for you to go.
Yeah, we're like,
I
Makes
I
me
could
wonder,
not.
did she like break a whole bunch of shit in the hotel and they were just like, oh, well, we got to get her out of here. I guess we're just going to have to eliminate. Like, what happened?
It
Q
was
is
like
my least favorite letter.
the silence in the bar when the
Oh,
book
my God.
photo, the cover art showed up.
Oh
Everyone was
no.
like, okay, like it was just not. Oh girl,
Uh,
oh girl.
and then, like, the other thing too is they eliminated Q to then compete in a lip sync Lollapalooza. Like, oh no.
Honestly, that is the best part about it. Oh gosh.
Not a
So
Oh,
we're
revolving
all in
door.
agreement that
About to
right.
be some Elimination Lopez stuff. You just come right in, right back
right
out.
back out. Yep.
No. Oh, I feel so bad because like she's so good at so many other things, but just not her day, not her week, not her
No.
week.
So
Okay.
for
To be
Nymphia's runway
fair,
look.
Oh
oh,
yeah.
go ahead. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Aman. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mama.
I didn't really like it.
I didn't like it either. I didn't like it
I thought the
either.
colors were
loved
kind of
it.
all over the place. I got, the Marie Antoinette of it all. We've seen it on Drag Race plenty of times. And I'm personally not tired of seeing Marie Antoinette looks.
Mhm.
Like the judges sort of mentioned being tired of it, which, I guess they're the actual judges. So, I get that. But I was fine with it. But I didn't really, I appreciated all the fans everywhere. And it's a very detailed look. It's obviously something, again, that I will never be able to make in my lifetime. But it just didn't gel for me. I didn't really feel a way about it. I think it's definitely one of her weaker looks. But again, similar to Q, the bar is so high for Nymphia. So
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
a slight off week you're gonna be like, what is this, girl? It's trash. You know what I mean? So
For me, now that I'm really looking, I think I love the actual dress. I think the issue for me is the bright ass orange hair because
Yeah.
all I do is want to look at the hair. I don't want to look at anything else. So I'm almost missing all of the really gorgeous details in the actual dress itself because I am constantly drawn like a moth to flame to her bright orange hair.
I
yeah.
completely agree with that. I was going to say that I love the outfit if you separate the hair, and I love the hair if you separate it from the outfit. And I think that
Mhm.
it's like this is Detox's,
That's the first thing I thought of.
imprint,
The
you know.
neon, yeah.
But I definitely think too that I love the idea of like the fans. I love the little fans on the nails. It did feel kind of like the Hello Kitty challenge where they're like, some people just put Hello Kitty stuff all over, like the pearl thing. And I was just like, okay, so there's that aspect with Nymphia where it's like, I have fans here. I'm gonna put a fan that I'm holding into my chest, and then I've got this. Like it did feel like a little bit like see my fans, rather than making the
Right.
fans like the star of the show. So I will say that. But in terms of the outfit itself, I like it. I wish her wig had maybe been that baby blue or something, instead
Yeah.
of that
And
orange.
like I get why I mean she did it to match the fire crotch, right? Does the carpet
Right.
match the drapes? But like unfortunately we don't see the carpet until much later. So all I'm looking at are the drapes, and the drapes are a bright orange color that doesn't really match.
It does make me chuckle though. As soon as I saw that reveal, I was like, I love that like the fans on the skirt would be fanning
The pussy,
that
yeah. I
area, the
love it.
pussy, the entire
Yeah.
time. I was like, you better work.
Fanning the
Yes.
flame.
Pussy on fire. Let's go. Okay, fantastic. We've gotten through all of the looks. We have a few other things to talk about, primarily the lip sync. So obviously QV Plain Jane in the bottom two, Tina Turner, Better Be Good to Me. And at first, when Plain starts stripping, I was like, what are you doing? That outfit is gorgeous. Why are you taking your clothes off? And then we get the titty shaking that just drives Rue into a fit of laughter. And from that moment on, I knew there was no way in hell Plane was going home.
And I will say,
Jimbo has fucked up Drag Race.
but Yara Sofia has fucked up Drag Race. I honestly like of course the boobs were fun or whatever, but she did it not over the top in a way that was like
It was
Saphira in the
tasteful.
first
It was
episode where they
tasteful
were like
boob.
hitting her
Yeah.
face,
Yes.
it was tasteful. It was like 3 drinks deep at spring break rather than 16, like so
Mhm.
it was, but she also just looked good. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know,
I
like
know.
she just mothered a little too hard anyway. So she really did. Whereas Q went for a very intense kind of vibe, which I understand with this song, but I also was kind of like, all right, you've got theater kid versus, stripper, which
Classy stripper.
classy stripper,
Classy stripper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just felt like Plane had the energy that Rue was looking for.
Yeah, it kind of felt like Plain lip synced as if there was not going to be a top 4, and Q
Mhm.
lip synced like there was going to be a top 4. So yeah, I mean, it just and the titties, like the titties are always going to take it over the edge. I just
Yeah.
Yep.
keep thinking of Jimbo. I keep thinking of Jessica Wilde with my coconuts.
Mhm.
Oh gosh.
Something about those titties, man. It just sends you into an orbit.
Yep. All right, let's see. Yeah, let's touch on the mini challenge. So the lip syncing underwater. So at first, when Bruce says they're gonna be lip syncing underwater, I was like, oh my god, yes, like season 5. I was like, they're submerging them. I could not wait. This is again another America's Next Top Model like callback, right? I was like,
Mhm.
oh my god, yes, they're gonna stick them underwater. And then it was like just their faces. I was like, boo. Stick them in a tank of water.
But
And
then
all of a
Plain
sudden,
being like,
Saphira
he is trying to
stepped.
waterboard us.
Saphira had absolutely did the best, but I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that she just came back out to take a breath and go back in every single time she had to actually say words.
That
And
was
And then
everybody
she
smart.
else
put
was
her
like,
boobs in the
ah,
water too. Like,
oh yeah, you better get
Yeah.
into it. Like, I loved it.
it was so
Yeah.
silly.
It was fun. It was
so silly.
silly.
And
I do
Nymphia not knowing the words was funny.
Yeah, some people don't know the words to my songs.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, I mean, this to me felt a little bit, I don't know, maybe it was the fact that we went to a top 3 or because of this mini challenge or like something felt very old school Drag Race
Yeah.
about this episode. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe it's all of those little things together that just made for just kind of a fun episode. I enjoyed, of course, all the workroom like conversations as well. It was just fun. I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, it was fun. And like
It was a lot
just
of fun.
what we have now at the end with all of these interesting records, people that like for the people that are super, super concerned about track record, it's like
Mhm.
any one of them could win. Any one of them, they have the 4 wins, Plain and Saphir, but they also have the bottom 2. She
Mhm.
Nymphia doesn't have 4 wins, but she's never been in the bottom. So it's
And she has
like
3
and she
wins
has 3
now.
wins. So it's
Mhm.
like any way you slice it, girl,
Yeah.
there's an argument for all of them. And I just think that I also kind of, and shout out to the diversity of it. You got one black girl, you got one white girl, you got one Asian girl. I kind of like that too.
And if
It just
Nymphia
feels like
wins,
a
she'd be the first Asian winner since Raja, which would be
mm-hmm,
big. I
mm-hmm,
just I think there's a lot of 3 very different styles of drag that we're seeing.
mm-hmm.
3 people who have very clear ups and downs of what they're good and not good at. 3 very different types of experience. 3 different queens who have worked hard for in their respective communities to where they go. This is a fierce top 3. I'm not
Mhm.
mad
It
if
is.
any of them win.
Yeah, well, I want to take a moment to do head, heart, gut for
Mm.
our predictions for the winner. I mean, obviously, we'll be talking next week about the eliminated queens, but I think let's do it here. It feels appropriate. So the way this works, we do this every season where we give our predictions about who we are head. So logically, who you think is going to win, your heart, who you want to win in your heart, and just your gut feeling, like just who you for maybe some unexplicable reason feel like is going to win the
Mm.
season. And we have Plain, Nymphia, and Saphira, obviously, obviously, as the 3. So I can kick things off. I think for me, my head actually says, I don't know why my head says Nymphia. My head says Nymphia. My heart is torn between the two of them. My gut says Saphira. So that it's like Saphira and Nymphia for me. Unfortunately for Plain Jane, I do feel like I think there's the world where she takes it. Don't get me wrong, but if I am having to place the other two, they're just slightly above her in those different categories. Beth, what do you think?
I mean, I think my head, my heart, and my gut are all saying Saphira. But Nymphia is just right behind her. I do think that my head is like, girl, logically speaking, RuPaul is eating everything that Saphira is doing and loves a lot of what Nymphia is doing and obviously loves a lot of what Plain is doing. But there is that connection that RuPaul feels with Saphira that is just there. My heart says Saphira because I just sit here and I'm like, how can you not love a queen who is just so gracious and polished? You know what? And I'm actually interested, Aman, I wonder if you feel this way too. There are aspects about Saphira that give me Beyonce vibes. Like, you know what I mean? Like
I know what you mean.
Beyonce doesn't come out and say, I'm fierce and I'm this and I'm that. I mean, she does through her
music, through her performance, but like outside of that, there's none of that. There's no shit talking. It's very much
she
just like
mothers.
Yes.
You walk into the room, you know she's there. It's just
that's how I feel Saphira is. And I just think Saphira has got it. I think that I wouldn't be shocked if any of the 3 of them won. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be upset, but I just genuinely think I think Saphira's got this.
So I have a different answer for all 3.
Ooh.
My head, like the logical part of my brain, what's set like the business part of my brain is saying that Plain Jane should win the season. Because I think that she would just be an exciting and polarizing winner and someone that would have everyone coming back to, like, you would endlessly debate this if Plain Jane won this season.
That's so true.
Especially the season after Sasha Colby winning, like having a more controversial.
Like,
I think
that. It would just drum up. It would drum up so much controversy for the show. It would drum up so much just publicity for the show, and it would rejuvenate. I think it would bring back a lot of people that were sort of like out on the show a little bit. They'd be like, "Oh, hold on, that bitch won!" Like, I feel like so much conversation would endlessly happen. So I think that's logically, I think it's the best thing to happen. My gut is saying that Saphira is going to win because I think all of our guts have been saying that for a very long time. But then my heart goes to Nymphia, especially after this season, because especially when they got that diary room of her crying after she won that damn challenge, like you could just see like something just got released in her, and I'm just happy for her soul. And again, I'm glad that she is coming from Taiwan and is able to share those experiences and those stories, and just like how many it's such a small community over there in Taiwan, what she says, and then for her to be like, oh my God, like all these people were rooting for me. Like this whole country is on my back and I did it. Like I got on the show. I made it to the top 3. The way that she ran to the back of that stage, I was like, bitch, she's like running to the back of that stage after she won, like before RuPaul changes his mind. Like I was like, I thought that this was just such a powerful moment for Nymphia. So my heart would, like, if she won this season, a piece of me would have to, I would be like, in public in Philly, in these Philly streets, I'd be like, that was some bullshit. But then I'd be walking outside like, So yeah,
I was just thinking about this, and I was thinking like they all have talent, but I feel like Saphira represents charisma, Nymphia uniqueness, and Plain Jane nerve. Like I think they all are like the masters of those 3 areas, and then they're all like very talented. So when I'm thinking like if they're going to do a lip sync, Plains is probably going to be the funniest. Nymphia's is probably going to be a little out there, but like aesthetically incredible. And then Saphira is probably just going to have presence. You know what I mean? And I think like, how do you judge that? It's going to be really interesting. I think.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Now I'm even more confused after this discussion. I felt like, well, honestly, coming into this week's episode, I was like Saphira. Then this week's episode happened. Then I was like Nymphia. Now I'm hearing all the arguments. I'm like, genuinely don't know. And I think that that's going to make for a really fun finale. But before that, we have one more stop, which is, of course, the lip sync Lollapalooza of the eliminated queens. So we as a group will be back next week to discuss all of that. Maybe any reunion stuff that might happen. I don't know. We don't know. Y'all don't know. We're going to find out together. And then, of course, we'll be there for the finale. All right. Is there anything else that either of you would like to say before we wrap it up?
Who do we think's going to win the lip sync Lollapalooza?
I
And
want
why is it Maya?
Mirage to win. I want Mirage to win so bad.
Same.
I
We
really
should do
do.
head, heart, gut.
Wait,
with
head,
that.
heart, gut. Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Okay. So to me, it's between the M's. I narrowed it down to the Maya Morphine and Mirage of it all.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go a little bit out of order. I'm gonna say my heart would love Mirage to win. Mirage is my
Fine.
heart pick. My head says Maya, and my gut says Morphine.
Oh.
I think. I don't know.
I feel like my heart and my gut are in the same page. I think that Mirage to me feels
In
like,
both. Yeah.
especially with like the whole, because this is like not like unprecedented in the sense of like Lollapalooza, but unprecedented in which like a queen that like went out on a lip sync that they did not know the words who can get like immediate redemption within their season to fix it. Like I just think that would just be an incredible story to watch unfold. My head, I don't know. I think maybe all three are saying Mirage. I guess I'm just like sort of really, really biased here. I feel like Maya could do a really good job. I feel like Maya will eliminate a couple people, but I also think that she's going to do what she usually does, and that she'll start flipping a bit too early. And then by the time she makes it to the next lip sync, it's like, okay, girl.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to see Maya and Morphine go at it again because she was playing a little bit of dirty game with that cape. So I really want to see Morphine have the opportunity to do something else. So we'll see. I think this is
Morphine
interesting.
won the lip sync, so
She did. But I still feel like she could still get her lick back a little bit more, you know?
I think for me, my head says Maya, my heart says Mirage, my gut, y'all are gonna go no, but my gut says Plasma. I think there could be a world where all of a sudden you've got, what if they do like, I don't know, Everything's Coming Up Roses as one of the, like, what if there's a musical theater song or something that's right up Plasma's alley as somebody who was a good lip syncer. It's just she's not a body yada 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 kind of lip syncer. If she gets something that is, I don't know, 80s, that's whatever, or like old Hollywood, Broadway kind of thing, which does happen occasionally, I could see her crush it a little bit too. And as somebody who had a couple of wins when she got out, I could see production try to favor her a little bit.
So these are the eliminated queens, just to like refresh, because I'm happy that you mentioned Plasma because I was like, oh yeah, Plasma. All right, so we've got Q, Morphine, Dawn, Maya, Plasma, Tsunami, Megami, Protect Queer Art, Geneva, Amanda, Mirage, and Hershey.
I also wouldn't be mad. I think Amanda's going to turn it more than what people give her credit for as well. I'm just going to say.
I think there's some stiff competition in the group.
I'm just excited to see them all back.
Same. Okay.
I wonder if it's going to be regular songs or if they're all going to be RuPaul songs again. Because that also really will affect. Because if it's all RuPaul songs, then
I'm pulling Plasma out.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if we saw anything in any of the promos that would indicate. I don't think so.
We
didn't
so.
see. Like,
we saw shots of them, but we didn't hear anything. No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to find out next week. All right, Aman. What are your plugs? Anything else you want to talk about? Social medias, all that. I don't know if
I'm
you
here.
muted. Oh, there we go. Okay, your microphone cut
Oh,
out for like a hot sec, but you're back.
oh, sorry.
That's
Oh
okay.
yeah, you can follow me everywhere at Aman Adwin. Just here for Drag Race as well as Be With the Canada 12. I also play video games with friends from time to time over on my channel Forfeit Gaming, Forfeit spelled with the FOUR. So check that out on Twitch and YouTube as well.
Beth, what about you?
You can follow me everywhere at AugustaWind11, including my Twitch channel where I occasionally go live. I will be participating in a shiny hunting event in the beginning of May. If you are somebody who loves watching people shiny hunt for shiny Pokemon, check that out. It's with some pretty fun creators, both on Twitch and YouTube. And you can also catch me on My Weekly Meltdown, which has turned into less Survivor coverage and just the three of us shooting the shit and then occasionally saying something about Survivor. So if you're looking for three people who are just completely wacky, then feel free to check us out.
Amazing. And you can follow me on Twitter at Liana RHAP. Puya has been very sick, so we have not recorded Mass Singer
I
yet, but
know.
we
How does he feel
will
now?
get
Is he feeling good today?
to that. Today is the first day he's felt somewhat better, but he still has a sore
Yay.
throat, and it's not COVID. It's I don't know. He got something
Is it
weird.
strep? Because there's strep going around here in Philly, so it might be
Oh.
strep. Yeah.
Okay. It felt more upper respiratory, but
Oh,
I'll
okay.
ask but if it's still persisting, it could be a combination of the two. But anyway, okay. So
Mhm.
diagnoses aside, we will get we will get Mass Singer out at some point. Bear with us. We're working on that, and then Drag Race. The B&B, speaking of Survivor, is going strong. We had Dwight Moore from Survivor 43 as our guest. He's, obviously got to experience all of the horrors of the Murgatory. So he helped us. We had him relive his trauma as we talked
So
through
nice
everything
of
from this
you.
week. I know, right? We did it so perfectly. So anyway, that's out. We just recorded that, so it should be out soon if you're interested. If you want to help us, leave your star ratings and reviews on iTunes. RHAPup.com/drag race. All stars will be coming at some point soon, I assume. So if you want to hold off until then, because it always helps the beginning of a season is usually more beneficial, you can do that as well. Otherwise, go for. Thank you to the whole RHAP team for all of their help behind the scenes, getting this podcast out into your eyeballs and your ears. Thank you for all of that. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye. Uh-oh.